Well, believe it or not, there's actually negotiations going on for the Pennsylvania state budget. I think this is the quietest year in memory when the budget's supposed to be adopted by June 30. Sitting across from me and going to engage in a little discussion about it is Russ McDaid. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. Russ, you've covered a lot of these budgets. We are literally down to the June 30 deadline, and is there anything going on that's public with the state budget this year?
No. It's unusually quiet.
Yeah.
We were in the Capitol the last couple of days, and I can assure you there are things going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Yeah, and I understand that things are going to start breaking as early as next week. And everybody that we spoke to the last several days is still optimistic for an on-time budget. So, that's what we've got.
Well, I guess we had budgets approved, but funding them has been another matter on time. And then Governor Wolf, for 3 straight budgets, has not put his signature on the budget bills. He allowed them to become law. But this year, it looks like there's much more harmony, and there doesn't seem to be the roiling debate that we've had in the past. Is that a fair assessment?
That's the sense right now. And I got to tell you, as we've discussed, Terry, for 3 straight budgets, we've also seen no funding increase for our nursing facilities on Medicaid in the state budget, which is the piece that we really focus on most directly.
Right, and I want to get into that, but if we think about it, the governor proposed a 3% hike in the budget over last year, $1 billion in new revenue, but no what I call big taxes like income and sales. He supports the Marcellus shale tax. So. And it looks like the state has taken more in taxes than in previous years. It looks like there'll be more money taken in. There won't be a deficit of the $2 billion we had last year. So what's your sense about the likelihood that nursing homes, among some other, you're likely to get some kind of an increase? Is there any positive signs out there? Yeah,
I'm trying to explain it to people who don't follow the budget all the time. Where we have maybe a deficit of $200 million right now, as opposed to the $2 billion that we've had in past years, and we're in good shape. It seems like revenues are in a good place. We had the Supreme Court decision on sports betting, which will also add some revenue to the coffers in the next year. So regardless of how the other tax conversations go, it seems like we're in a really good place. And I got to tell you, we're hopeful that for the first time in 4 years, there'll be some recognition of the really important work that our folks in our nursing facilities do, and the need that we have in those nursing
let's start
facilities.
with this. We got one of the oldest populations in the country, number one. Number two, the population in Pennsylvania senior citizen population tends to be fairly static. There's not a lot of movement around, right? Number 3, at some point, people just can't care in their homes for family members, and a lot of people try, don't they? They try to keep them in their homes, and then at some point it gets overwhelming.
Yes, you use the word can't. That's the right word. These are individuals who need to be in a round-the-clock care setting. They can't make a go of it in their homes. And with Mother's Day last month and Father's Day upon us, it's important to remember that that's the people who we're investing in when we increase rates for nursing facilities. It's not the owners, it's our mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, neighbors, friends, and we need to make a strong investment in them in this budget that's going to be decided upon over the next 2 weeks.
Now, most people who go in will first use Medicare and then Medicaid, right? And that's insufficient in the long run to keep someone, am I wrong about that, in a nursing home? That the state has to play a significant role in it.
Yeah, this is about the Medicaid program, which is a state program. Medicare does very little, pays for very little of that nursing facility stay. Then it's turned over to the state and the state taxpayers, and it's basically a 50-50 game where the federal government kicks in 50 cents of every dollar of care provided, and the state kicks in the other 50. And we haven't seen the state raise their share that they put into that and raise the funding for these folks in 4 years now.
I'm going to ask you an unfair question. You come on here all the time. How many people are in nursing homes? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, a little under 90,000.
See, I knew you knew the answer to that.
And over 50,000 of them rely on Medicaid, over 2/3. So that's the important piece. These are
size
folks
of a small city.
Correct. And their only fault is that they lived longer than their resources did. They've spent all their money, and now they're on Medicaid, and the state taxpayers, we all have an obligation to provide them with high-quality care.
All right, we're going to run to a break. I want to talk about lawsuit abuse when we come back, and then coming up in a bit, Terry Fitzpatrick will join us. We're going to talk about some developments in the energy field. As I indicated, where would we be without it? We'll get to that. Well, I'm talking with Russ McDaid. He heads the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. We've dealt with the state budget and the prospects that it will get done on time. We think it will. The lawmakers don't want to remain in Harrisburg, am I right, after June 30, and there doesn't seem to be the kind of debate we had in the past. It's likely that Governor Wolf and the Republicans that control the legislature will work all of that out. But there's another issue that you and I have chatted about over the years, and it has to do with lawsuit abuse. It's a serious problem for the folks that operate our nursing homes. First of all, what's lawsuit abuse, and why should our viewers care about it?
Yeah, in the context that we're speaking of, Terry, it's out-of-state predatory law firms placing ads in our newspapers, trying to get people who may have had a loved one in a facility to call an 800 number, just in case something went wrong with that care, so that they can request medical records and try to incentivize the facility to engage in a settlement. It's a very formulaic process. A lawsuit is filed, but when it's that formulaic process just to get the facility to settle for a number, it is the very definition of a frivolous lawsuit, and that's what we're trying to address with important legislation right now.
All right, well, how then do we accomplish a couple things? Making sure that the legitimate claims are dealt with, on the other hand, but the abuse is done away with. So what can Pennsylvania lawmakers do that would reach, make sure that that balance is kept, but that there's also the protections that need to be there for, legitimate concerns that nursing home operators have?
Right, there's a bill in front of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives right now. It's House Bill 1037. The number's not as important as the concept. What it does is it puts some protections in place so that nursing facility operators, when they believe that they're not wrong, they believe that they provided good care, and that anything that was alleged to have happened to an individual resident happened as a course of care and the aging process, that they have the ability to have their day in court without the fear of a large jackpot settlement. In other states, without the protections in this bill, we've seen awards in the tens and almost hundreds of millions. There was a lawsuit in West Virginia several years ago where a jury awarded an individual $93 million.
$93 million?
$93 million. And so that's what this legislation is attempting to do, to put
a limit, a
limit on that.
A cap on it?
Correct, and that's the big jackpot number. And it's important to note, the legislation doesn't take anyone's right away to file a suit or to be made whole. There's something to get really kind of detailed. Compensatory damages, that's your lost wages, the cost you incurred for medical care, the cost your family might have incurred. There's also a pain and suffering number that a jury can award, which can result in, let's say we have a $2 million verdict. All this bill would say that is, instead of getting to that $93 million number, they can only add 2.5 times that, or $5 million more, on top of that in a punitive award to really punish the facility if something egregious has occurred.
Does the mere fact that right now these awards can be substantial, I'll put it that way, does that make the owners of these facilities negotiate a settlement in order to avoid, even if they have a case, if they have some evidence on their side, do they try to settle these so they don't have to go through all of this? Is that a common practice?
Absolutely. We settle over 80% of the cases in nursing facilities right now.
How many?
Over 80% are settled because of that fear, because insurers won't let their clients go to the courtroom for fear of that big payout. Meanwhile, doctors take over 80% of theirs to court because they've had the identical protection that the House is looking to address for long-term care providers since 2002 under the MCARE Act.
That's a good point. So you're talking about the protections that physicians have for folks who operate nursing homes. Is that
physicians have had this protection for their practice since 2002, and nursing homes need it now. We need to move this legislation.
All right. Thanks for the update. All right.